Hey Canvas Keys, I want to show you just some of the basic differences that we're going to experience when we have our new stage 4. What I'm going to be comparing that to is when we have the stage 3, and what can you look forward to then with the stage 4 that's uniquely different from what we had before. So, NORD keyboards, awesome. Basic layout of this keyboard is similar to before in that we have specific sections in the keyboard. We have our organ section, we have a piano section, we have the master section, synth section, effects. Okay, so very similar to what we had before. But in the stage 3, you had something called panel A and panel B. And so in panel A, you had a piano, an organ, and a synth. Panel B, you had a piano and an organ and synth, and effects, sorry. In each of those, you had effects. And then to access those, you had to navigate with a button right here between panel A and panel B. So you could have two synths, but you didn't see them simultaneously. And so they've eliminated panels, and everything that we are now hearing is also visible and accessible without having to dive into one panel or the other. So what you see is what you're hearing essentially. And I really like that because it's not some mystery of like, wait, I don't see the piano on. Why do I still hear it? Well, you hear it because it's in a different panel. And when that panel isn't selected, you might not have even known it was on. So this is a big win, because sometimes, you might want to turn the piano off, but there might have been two pianos. A lot of our patches had like an octave piano or things like that. And so would have one piano in one panel and a second piano in the other panel. And when you thought you were turning the piano off, you could still hear a piano. And again, that's because it was in the other panel. And those weren't always visible without oscillating then or alternating between one panel or the other. Now, no such thing as panels anymore, so that's a huge feature. So rather than have a panel A piano and a panel B piano, you just have two pianos right here. So you'll notice there's two faders, and I'll turn both pianos on so you can see the LED lights. So two pianos. You have three synths. So that's a big upgrade because we only had two synth engines before. The whole synth engine is different than the stage 3 was, in terms of how does the low frequency oscillator, the LFO, how does that look and feel and operate? The envelope filter is laid out different. The amp section, the amp envelope, which is the attack, sustain, decay, and release. In this case, their sustain and decay is the same thing. So your attack, decay, and release used to have knobs, and now it doesn't. And I can show you how that is accessed here in a moment. But and then the effects, and this is huge to me. Before, in a panel, you could have effects unique to that panel, but if I had a delay on the piano, I could not have in that same panel that delay also on the synth. Now every instrument can be affected and affected separately. And so that's a big upgrade as well. Additionally, the reverb is assignable, not a master reverb anymore, and that's great. It's assignable to the given instrument. The compressor is assignable to given instruments, and then there's also another level layer of compression just on the piano, but you could double compress it where you have it also on this compressor here. Initially, when I was making all the patches, it took me a hot minute to kind of get used to the button flow because it's different. But especially when I went through every song that we do at Canvas and made patches for those songs, that really forced me to create a good workflow and understand how the buttons were laid out, how the knobs affected everything, how each menu functioned. So it was pretty cool. So those are the main differences. Another big difference in the master section was we only had 5 buttons across before. Now we have 2 layers or two rows of 4, so you have 8 total. A huge difference is not having song mode. Hated that. I did do a workaround for that song mode where I just left the back half of bank H, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88. So 81 through 88, I kept empty so that we could load our set each week into those 8 spaces. And that, I think, will create a good workaround for not having song mode. Because the way we used it as like a master set list. And other people use song modes in a different way, for different parts and things like that. But I think for us, needing 5 very unique different sounds, I think that's going to work well. So check out that other video about setting up the NORD Stage 4 for Canvas keys, and that'll really help. But those are the main differences that you're going to experience. So just a couple things with that too is you can turn an entire section on or off at the top here. So this is the piano section. And it's also, this button is illuminated because the effects focus is on the pianos right now. So this means that whatever I do in the effects section is affecting piano B, and that's why that's illuminated there. But this button here on, and now my whole piano section would be turned off. So again, before where I wanted to turn off the piano but still was wondering why I was hearing it, that would solve that problem. And then this is the synth engine section. You can turn the whole synth engine on or off, and the organ section has the same thing. And it has real drawbars, or I mean by real I mean mechanical instead of buttons. That's a big difference, and I really like that. I think those drawbars feel sweet. Yeah, those are the main features I wanted to show you that you might wonder what you're doing a little bit. Your volumes for your piano are here, and then your volumes for your different synths that you might have layered are here. And synths can be waveforms that are filtered and have oscillators put on them, or they can be samples. And a lot of what we use are samples, and so you might want to check that out. I'll do another video at some point on diving into the synth engine of the NORD Stage 4, but for now I just wanted you to be aware of, hey, when you get this, it's gonna be different than what you're used to. I did create in A11 for the bundle we have for Canvas keys. I did create a basic worship setup, which has 2 pianos, just a silver grand and white grand, and I just, and then I created a different, these synths together is what make that pad sound so rich and lush. So this is one of it's just a shimmer sample I put on there in the first one, and then I have, this is a saw wave, but I turned the frequency way down on that saw wave. And it just has a lot of reverb on it. And then this one is also, it's a sine wave with a saw on top of it, or like I morphed into a bit of a saw shape. Let me turn the piano off so you can hear it. So not all samples, but one sample and then two waveforms that are then oscillated to create something. And when you hear all of these 3 together, it's quite a bit of rich. And then wanted to put an organ on there, you would just turn the organ on. So that's the basic worship setup patch. It's A11, A11. If you get stuck, that one will get you pretty far. Okay, just explore it a little bit and enjoy the journey. I think one of the things you'll want to navigate is how do you turn layers on and off. I think that took me a hot minute. Like if you hold it down, it turns on. Tap it to turn. If you hold it down, it turns it off. Tap it, turns on. But if you tap another one, it turns that off while simultaneously turning the previous one off. So how do you turn them on all at the same time? You have to hold them down. And so that that took me a minute to figure out the whole on and off thing and get used to it. Again, it's like transitioning from being a piano player to a synth player is like an acoustic player learning to play electric. There's a lot more going on. And I want to challenge you to not just stay being a piano player, but understand what's going on and all the layers and what makes sound. Try to learn about the synth engine, or try to even just watch a basic video. There's a ton out there on like what is synthesis and what does it mean when you have attack, decay, sustain, and release, or what does a filter do. Try to learn all that stuff. It's really cool. But you'll find all the patches again in the library that I've uploaded and put on your NORDs already. Check out the Google Drive if you need something specific. Okay.